And we're
Howdy,
on.
friends. Welcome to Brain Drain Unlimited Foundation. Every Monday, we stage a new series in the show called Meet Your New Neighbor. My name is Konstantin, and I am joined by Manus, Eric, and Tamara. Welcome to the show.
Yes. All right. Yeah, I'm Manus MacLean, the co-founder, and today we're just going to put it in Eric's hands and let me take a nice, easy day.
Yeah, and I'm Eric Lickness. I'm coming to you today from South Dakota. So if I'm a little dim in the face, it's because of my lighting on my laptop here. But I'm the marketing person and I'm in charge of technology. Most of the stuff you see online has my fingerprint on it. Um, and I think it's since February, so we're up to 10 months I've been with Brain Drain now. So the purpose of today's Meet the Neighbors is for the audience just to get to meet us as your potential neighbors a little bit more. So what we'd like to do today is get some fresh updates from Manus. Maybe if I have a little extra time, I can answer some of the questions the team has posed to me about my expat experiences and the different places I've lived. And as usual, one of the reasons why we're here is for the audience to ask us anything. So feel free to drop your comments at any time during this broadcast. We have Tamara monitoring them, and we'll try to answer any questions you have. So Manus, we're on the
Yes.
10-month mark.
Yes.
Uh, in your opinion, are we continuing to meet our mission, and how are we continuing to differentiate ourselves as a unique service for what we do?
At times it feels that it's been much, much longer than 10 months, and other times it seems like it's where is everything gone?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, but I believe we did complete the initial. It was a series of seminars, webinars, education. So the team went through what is known as VEC, Volunteer Employment Consultants. It is run by RSVP, Retired Service something, for volunteers. It is an organization. I know it's nationwide, and yeah, we went through the 6 month program, and I can tell you that the performance of uh, those on our staff was just beyond uh, excellent. It was just fantastic just to see them. We were able to get through all the work. We surprised them and whatnot. Uh, as far as other things are concerned, I know we had a meeting on Friday and everybody was pumped after that meeting. Uh, it was with a future potential funder, and the woman said something during our conversations that I just latched on to that right away because I had, oh, well, you'll understand why. But she said that they have been watching us for months. They've been watching us and following along for months, and we've been doing a lot of shouting, a lot of YouTubes, a lot of streaming, a lot of Instagram and everything like that. And sometimes you just don't know if anybody notices, but yes, apparently somebody does.
Yeah.
And yeah, that followed up the experience I had at the doctor's office, which was I'm sitting in the doctor's office and another woman, a patient comes in and sits close to me, and I was I was annoyed because I was taking up my leg room, and I wanted to stretch my legs out and I couldn't. But then she leaned over and she noticed the writing on my shirt, and she said, "You guys are doing excellent work." So somebody else, complete stranger, and that all entails with a conversation I had with another nonprofit leader, locally, and she told us about a month ago that brain drain came up in conversation. So, yes, I it was all encouraging news, good news.
Nice.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, well, we, like you said, we've been shouting for a long time, so it's nice to know some people are getting our invitation to come to the party.
Yes.
Yes. Because that's kind of the goal. We want to be synonymous when anyone thinks about immigration, when anyone says anything negative about immigration, we want people to think brain drain. We've got positive message about immigration. And I've had practice just in travel over the last few days. I've had the opportunity to tell our story to several folks about immigration and why we need immigrants. And, even up here in Dakota, in farm country, we have a lot of immigrant workers in the agricultural industry. So, yeah, now
I'd like to add my 5 cents to that too.
Yeah.
One of the things that make me feel really good is knowing that I am just bigger than Constantine. I'm part of a big cause of helping people and make things better. Just knowing that really uplifts my mood, really gives me energy, motivates me.
I agree. I've been the same way, Constantine. It's been great to be a part of something bigger than myself. Yep. And sometimes it feels impossible when it seems like the world is falling down and everything's going crazy. When we can push the ball forward on one good thing and one positive thing during the day, that's a good thing.
Yes.
I agree. It makes me feel stable. I have this feeling that I keep on following Russian news every single day, and I have this feeling that the world is spinning around my head. It's become so crazy, it's beyond belief. And I turn to my family and I turn to the cause of helping others, and that what makes me feel sane. I feel that I stand on both of my feet on the ground firmly. Okay, and then I don't care what's happening around me. That's who I am, what I stand for, and that's it helps me continue my journey. So brain drain has been incredible so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got our two co-founders here. And just to remind anyone that may be in the chat that now's the opportunity to have the two co-founders answer any of your questions. So Manus, what about some of the growing pains we've had? Do you think we're working through those? What are some of the challenges we've had other than one thing is brain drain works across almost every time zone? But I think we've worked around that pretty well.
Yes. I still want to be able to get a direct phone connection to Tashkent. Just to, because we know that when reaching out to our legal team and things of that nature, I can do it. They answer the phones, but they're not on their computers all the time, so it's a little bit challenging that way. But I think we will find a way to solve that. We've found a way to solve every other challenge that we've had. So we'll figure that out, and maybe somebody who comes along and sees this will be able to say, "Hey, if you do this, yeah, you can do it." That type of stuff. So
yeah, we're open to solutions. Uzbekistan's kind of a strange in-between country insofar as the internet is fairly open, but a lot of the apps that we use in the West that we would use for business collaborations, they just don't work over there.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, we're looking for we do have a solution in place, but it's a little kludgy to use right now. So
Yeah. So, but yeah. Other than that, I think you know, the challenges are. I mean, we are actually not experiencing too many challenges, but we know that other challenges are going to be there. We know that there's going to be issues that are coming up, and we are preparing ourselves for that contingency. So let's, to be honest with you, we have a program where it is, you have a USCIS officer who makes a determination, and if you do not agree with that determination, you can then take it to an administrative court, and the administrative court is basically of the same branch, of the same issue. So they're and lately those decisions have been going against immigrants, and so we need to be able to be prepared to take it to federal court, and I think we are. So we have that. But in spite of all that, USCIS is working and doing its job, and they are approving immigration applications at the same level that they've always done. Now, have they been decreasing or declining more applications? And the answer is yes. But we're talking about applications that used to be coming in a rate of 3,000 to 5,000 are now coming in a rate of 35,000 to 55,000. So they're being swamped and buried, and they're looking for excuses as to pare it down as quickly as possible. So, and again, I think we have the infrastructure available to make sure that our applications are so good that they can't be dismissed right away. Yeah. So,
and speaking of that, since we're speaking to the audience, one of the things we did with the executive volunteers, we went through a comprehensive analysis of all of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So like Manus said, we are tracking some potential outside threats that could develop in the future as situations change and things are fluid. Speaking of that, Manus, maybe we should clarify for the audience just a couple things around the current government shutdown in the U.S. What do you think? I know there's some confusing news about what's shut down, what's not. Are they still taking visas? Personally, I can tell you, I flew through the airports on Friday, and TSA still worked just like they always did.
Yeah. Only the reality is 27% of the government is shut down. All right. So the shutdown does not affect what they call essential services, and I would hope that air traffic is considered an essential service. Especially, because I don't want planes falling on me. But anyway, USCIS is funded by the fees that they collect for the applications. It's not funded by taxpayer dollars, so has no impact on USCIS. Unfortunately, there's going to be some cases where it has to work with the State Department, and those will be impacted. And those type of things. But the applications that we deal with are pretty much the USCIS. They take anywhere from 8 to 12 months to process, once we submit that. And hopefully this craziness will be done, and the State Department will be back at work, and we'll be able to get things done through them a little bit more smoothly. But that's where we stand with that.
And speaking of that, per your latest updates as well, we just had the October 1st numbers reset, right?
Yes. So again, there's typically about 140,000 employment-based visas that are out there. 7%, of those. So basically, every country has a limit of 7%. I don't know how they figure that out, but they figure it out. So, and then 28% of that goes to the EB1 category, and 28% of that goes to the to the EB2. Basically, what it simply means, I think, just as what I said in that update, is that I think it comes to 9,000 per country, and then about maybe 2,000 or 3,000 per category. But I can tell you that the countries that we initially envisioned, and we used the word GRUM, and that was Georgia, Russia, Ukraine, Moldova. Russia did have a significant number of EB1 categories, and that was at 600 or 700, but nowhere near capacity. And everybody else they barely register. So it's wide open for them.
And why is that? Awareness? Lack of awareness?
Yeah, I would say lack of awareness. And I know, there's been, lack of awareness, lack of organizations such as ours, and whatnot. A lot of what we call notarios.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for the audience, a notario is somebody who is not authorized to do this work. You have to go through a process, and you basically have to get recognized by the DOJ, Department of Justice. There's a little bit of a rigmarole to be able to get through that, and but yeah, there's a lot, and sometimes they steer them towards other programs, and they're
Well,
not
you mentioned asylum.
Pardon me?
Well, they recommend a nuclear scientist goes and chooses asylum instead of applying under their skills.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes they recommend a temporary, whether it's the O1 or HB1 or whatever. Now, those are good programs, but they're temporary, and you are subject totally to the whims of the State Department.
Well, and speaking of that, you touched on the process that one has to go through and go working with the DOJ. You are right in the middle of that.
Yes.
So
yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that, about your Villanova program and what that entailed.
Villanova sponsors a program, College of Professional Studies. They call it the VISTA. And basically, they prepare students to become accredited representatives. And accredited representatives, as long as they are with a recognized organization, can operate as basically quasi-attorneys, if you want to call it that, to do the applications, represent people in immigration hearings and in front of the immigration court, if there's anything like that. So it's a way for us to be able to, number one, help our attorneys. We want to be able to help them and handle routine stuff. Keep their minds and efforts and energies free for the for the non-routine stuff. Mm-hmm. And whatnot. So, basically, it's just that's what we're looking to be able to do. We hope to build a cadre, but that application will go in probably within the next week or two, and then it's just depends on how fast the Department of Justice decides to work.
And we should mention that you're our first graduate.
Yeah.
Manus has been back to school.
Yeah. And once we get the recognition, we'll be able to get scholarships especially for this one young lady who's helping us out today. So, yeah.
So essentially, to those not in the know, essentially it's kind of like a mini paralegal in a way.
I would say it's even more, if you want to do a comparison for the possibly for the medical field, I would say it's close to a physician assistant, whereas a paralegal is maybe closer to a nurse.
Gotcha.
And but a physician's assistant can perform certain procedures and prescribe certain medications within limitations and whatnot. So an accredited rep sponsored by a recognized organization can do anything that an attorney can do in the immigration sphere. But as I said earlier, there may be some times when we have to take it out of the immigration administration court and into federal court, and that's where we're going to be able to have our attorneys on board.
Yep.
Yeah. And plus, our attorneys just keep us in line anyway. So.
Yeah, and so right now, we're kind of in the phase. We've set up a lot of infrastructure, and we're kind of in the phase where we're really starting to go out and aggressively contact foundations and apply for grants. We have all of our ducks in a row, so to speak, to have all that information. What are the primary challenges you've seen so far around fundraising?
Well, the fundraising, again, it seems so initially it's something that everybody fears, and it is something that if you are precise and if you go to those organizations that align with your goals and your mission, if they align with your mission, it's not that difficult. It's not that scary. You're not trying to convince somebody of something, because as it turns out, they're already looking at us. So we just have to make sure we knock on the door and say, we're here, write the check. It's not going to be that easy, but it's one of those things. Anybody who went trick-or-treating, in the old days, if the porch light was on, you knocked on the door. If the porch light was off, you just stayed away from it. Yeah, or maybe you came back later and did the trick. But it's not as if it's a it wasn't a scary proposition when I was a child. Let's put it that way.
And if you find the house giving out full-size candy bars.
Yes. Yeah.
To our foreign audiences, trick-or-treating is when for the Halloween you go around to people's house, kids dress up in costumes and they go around and they ask for candy. And normally in the States for Halloween, you can get small size candies for just the kids. But every once in a while, there would be a generous person in the neighborhood that would give out the full-size candy bar. And then the word got around quickly who had the full-size candy bar.
Yes. Whether that person was generous or just forgot to get the little candy bars later and was suddenly stuck with the empty shelves and had to buy the full-size,
That would be me as a bachelor. Or here, what's in the pantry? Here's a can of corn.
Yes. Yes. So, all right.
Yeah. So what else is going on in the zeitgeist? One thing that's bothered me, I'm just going to throw this out of context, is can we just verify once and for all that we don't have a bunch of immigrants stealing our health care?
No, we don't. It's a horrible misconception that actually feeds into the situation that we're in. It really does. It makes things a little bit. I mean, I wish they could get some type of a health care, only because, listen, if you are in the United States and you go to an emergency room, you're going to get care.
Yes.
Whether you have insurance, whether you come from this country or whether you come from a different planet, they are going to treat you. And if you have no way to pay for it, it then goes to whatchamacallit, and the aspirin that they are contracted to pay, 50 cents for by the insurance company, they then magically have it show up as $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
So it is far more expensive to get your care at an emergency room and whatnot. So it's something that we need to address and do it in such a way that it does make sense.
I would agree. And to your point, that's precisely what happens is the emergencies end up costing the taxpayers because they don't have an option. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the thinking in California when they tried to extend Medi-Cal to immigrants, was it's going to save us money.
Yeah. Yeah. But under the federal programs, it has always has been that they were eliminated from it. So, it always came down to, and I think this was something back in the mid 90s, that has been in place since the mid 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so as well.
So.
Yeah. So, moving forward, I think we've talked a little bit about how do we continue to push the message forward? How do we continue to move the message? And a lot of it as marketing to me. Immigration's such a serious topic. I try to be positive about it. I try to put a spin on the misconceptions around the zeitgeist.
Yes.
Which is, for example, one of the other pet peeves, we discussed this before, is I just heard I'm not so sure as it wasn't our Speaker of the House. The exact phrase was, illegal aliens are stealing trillions of dollars in healthcare from us. Okay, so what's wrong with that phrase? We'll start with the phrase illegal alien, right?
Yes. Yeah. Again, the phrase itself, alien, is just somebody who is not a citizen, and it doesn't necessarily. It's not illegal to not be a U.S. citizen.
Right.
Okay. There is no law on the books that says you must be a U.S. citizen. It can be that you are here without documentation, but you're here without permission. But the only time that you are here illegally is if you were deported and told not to come back.
Correct.
Yeah. So again, that does not exist. Yes, the trillions of dollars. This was something that has been okay, basically, and yeah, I guess we're getting into politics here, but why not? Okay, the Democrats, those people that are on the Affordable Care Act, that are getting their premiums subsidized through the Affordable Care Act, they're about to lose those subsidies. Those subsidies are about to go away in January. And that will raise their monthly payments anywhere from $400 to $900 a month. And many people that are getting those subsidies are going to have difficulty paying, or it's just going to be impossible. So the Democrats refused to sign what is known as the continuing resolution in order to keep spending for the federal government going, unless there was an allotment made so that those subsidies could continue. And yeah, they're trying to frame it at the Democrats want $1.5 trillion to keep health insurance for illegal aliens. You know, so it's just a framing. I think that that's a something that, yeah, they will address eventually. And
well, and just another point, bringing it back to the audience here, is that it's like anywhere. If you're watching the news coming out of the United States and you hear one tidbit or two, it's probably a lot more complicated.
Yes.
What they're saying in the headline.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. It's always, in fact, yeah, it's kind of something like that. But and I think I sent it to Constantine in a one of my messages to Constantine. It was something to the effect that one fact can silence 50 scholars in an argument, but 50 facts will never silence one idiot.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the world that we live in now.
Yeah. All right. So
right.
what else is going on?
I don't know. Let's see. Should we put you on the hot seat? Where's the
Well, you can ask me
question
a
for you?
question. So how does my consulting experience help me join in the team here? Well, I've mentioned before, I had the opportunity to live as an expat for 5 years in Europe. And I lived in Europe. It wasn't too long after they started to reunite and everything. Matter of fact, I was living in Europe when they switched over to the euro. I had to go get new money when I crossed the border into France. So that's been kind of an interesting experience for me. One of the first stories I ever had was an expat. I think I wrote a story about it. Was I was having a dinner with my girlfriend one night in Vevey, Switzerland, and I had only been there about 8 months. And she was an English speaker too. She was American, and we had this dinner. And after we finished eating, this waiter came up, and he goes, "Are you American?" Oh, and we're thinking, oh no, what's he gonna say? You know, because I'm used to being embarrassed about my French, and I don't know what to say. I'm thinking, God, what's he gonna say? You stupid Americans! And the guy got down on his knees and he practically started crying. And I'd never had that reaction from an expat before. And turns out he was from Yugoslavia, so he had been caught up in that whole conflict with Milosevic down there. I can't remember exact. I think he was on the Bosnian side. Came from over there. Anyways, he ends up on his knees thanking my girlfriend and me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, American. I have 2 pictures up on my mantle. One is of Jesus and one is of Bill Clinton. And we're thinking, oh gosh, Bill Clinton. But I never forgot that moment. I never forgot that wow, Americans, we make a difference. And it's not all like American haters, and it's so that was really one of the first experiences I had seeing the outside, seeing a positive view of America from the outside. And of course, I saw all kinds of things living from the outside looking in. I remember sending in my mail-in ballot, my absentee ballot, when George W. Bush got reelected. And remember the hanging chads? That was
his first election, yes.
Yeah, that was my mail-in ballot. And I remember saying to myself, if George W. Bush wins again, we're not even going to have a country anymore.
Oh,
So it just goes to show you that no matter what's going on or how crazy things get in America, you know what? We'll probably still have a country in 20 years.
yes.
You know?
Yeah. Ah, I see a question from our audience. Let me read it off. I have an important final question. Did you watch the Better Call Saul series? If yes, could you score how closely to reality this series is on a scale of 1 to 10? Really appreciate an opinion.
Manus?
I did not see it. I did see parts of it. Um, it is a little bit, um, as far as the parts that I saw, no, it's not reality. Uh, I did see, a couple times where uh, the actor playing the attorney did a few courtroom tricks, but these tricks are like 30, 40, 50 years old, and they didn't work when they originally tried them. So I just
Yeah, I don't think it's now. Are there shady lawyers that are
oh
out
yeah,
there that are doing some of that stuff like Saul? Absolutely. Like
oh yeah,
you'll drive down the LA freeway and you'll see billboards like that of call uh 800 Jacob and Marley, or
oh
whatever
yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
Oh, I think I saw
Call
one holding the whatchamacallit, the what was that movie? Greed is Good.
Wall Street.
Wall Street. Yeah, the follow up movie to Wall Street. There was a follow up movie where the actor comes out and he pulls out the phone that he was imprisoned with, 10 or 20 years ago. And, it's just this huge phone. And one of the billboards I see, this attorney is holding a phone like that. It's like, okay, I
Who's the
think I'll
one
choose somebody else.
up in Chicago? Peter Francis Geraci. Now I'm
Uh,
now I'm giving free advertisements to all the lawyers.
okay,
Uh,
so on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll go 1.5.
yeah, in reality.
Yes.
Uh, how do we network? Well, gosh, I've never thought I was a very good networker. I'm not the guy to go schmoozing and go shaking hands and kiss babies, but maybe Manus, you can answer that. You've been in sales.
Yeah, I never did well at networking events. Uh, I always did well at crashing. Yeah, for whatever reason, I would just walk into an office building and just start talking to people. And eventually, the receptionist would hand me off to somebody, and then that person would hand me off to somebody, and then eventually, I'd find somebody who can hand me off to the person that I need to speak to. So, but as far as uh, the networking as we understood it, the party schmoozing and all that other stuff, no, I never really did that. But yes, I did go into certain places, and I don't know what it was. I
I
would just
think I think
walk
it's
in.
I think it's a different kind of networking than what I've heard described in countries like Russia. Um, I think in Russia, your network is your source of identity, and your network is your source of social power, your power structure. And in the States, it's not really like that. I mean, it's not so essential to network here, I would say. I mean, networking is good, but it's not like you can't go out on your own and make your own way. A network helps.
Yeah, I think Constantine is our expert on Russian networking.
Yeah.
I can
Well, you've
add
networked.
my opinion to that. You got to look at lifestyles. You got to compare. I know quite well how Russians live and Americans live differently. Americans are very outgoing, and Americans just living their lives. That's what Russians consider networking. Okay, so constantly smiling at people, constantly saying hello, how are you, constantly having small talk, making friends, and some things they you take them a little further if you find out how are you and where are you from, what do you do, oh this, and by the way we do this, and this is kind of like it's normal interaction in the society. In Russia it's very different. Yes, in Russia you do depend on networking. It's actually vital. It's crucial for your life. How you succeed or not depends on which people, what people you know, what people you're associated with. But you get introduced. You make connections through different events, through school, through university, through serving in the army. That connections that last and friendships that last. But you just don't go out and start talking to everyone on the street. The people take it very aggressively. Like, why are you talking to me? Have I done anything to you? Am I bothering you? Why you? This is how it works. In Russia, when you do not smile and mind your own business, for example, elevators example, I always give it. Let's say you get into an elevator with an American in a hotel. The first thing you do is you smile, say, hello, how are you? Good, thank you, and yourself, enjoying? If you're at a hotel, how's your vacation going? Oh, great. And what about yours? Fantastic. Where are you from? I'm from Russia. Oh, really? Tell me about Russia. What brings you here? And then you start making a small talk, and then you go to floor 12. Door opens. Okay, have a good day. You have a great day too, and everyone smiles and parts. You get into an elevator with a Russian person. Very nice, very peaceful, very like awesome Russian person, but he'd be just standing there like not looking at you, not making eye contact, because it's in Russia, it's considered I mind my business. I am not threat to you. If I make eye contact, if I start, talking to you, I want something from you.
Yes.
I identify myself as a threat. In America, in the West, talking is not identified as a threat. Vice versa. If a person stands in the corner, doesn't look at him, why isn't he looking at us? Why isn't he being nice, polite, just smiling, So there's a huge difference. And this question, I understand where it comes from. How do Americans network? Very different from Russia. So
yes,
you
so
live,
networking.
and in Russia, it's considered you network. You breathe, and that's you network,
I experienced a similar thing, Constantine, in Switzerland with people like that in the elevator, like you said, you don't you don't just say, hey, how are you? What do you do for the, no, that's not, you don't do that. And that's why a lot of people, I think, sometimes find it strange their first visit to the States. They say, like, everyone wants to ask how I am, how I'm doing. And they don't realize that the answer is just people don't care. It's just a question. It's just a set question. How are you? Oh, I'm fine.
But
in other countries, if you ask,
can take further. They can take further. It's not just a question. It's you're open to discussion. If you take interest in someone, like, why not? You have a chat, and then if any like common interests are identified, it's not just like, oh, I'm good and that's it. Fudge off. You know what I mean? It's much more open society in general.
Okay. All right. Does that answer your question?
Good example. Another one. I was a first-year student in American University, and we had a group of exchange students from the UK, and they were a very closed group, and they didn't let anyone in at first. That's how they do. That's how they in England. That's how I guess it's done. And me being from Russia, I didn't know any rules. I would talk to anyone. I'd talk to them, and they started opening up bit by bit. And towards the end of the semester, they had to go back. They threw a big party, and they said, you know what, we Americans are very weird in terms of like they come and talk to us, but we like it. And then they kind of warmed up to that. So once people understand, they warm up. And I personally, even in Russia, I couldn't care less about this norms and standards of talking. I would just go and talk to people. I'd smile at people, and it breaks the breaks the template in people's hands. You know, what is this guy doing? And I could care less. I'd still spoke to them. I'd still smile at them.
Yeah. All right.
So
And
what some other questions that came up here. If I could ask the community a question, what would it be? Well, I don't know. I'm interested in any of our community. I've always been someone that's been interested in other cultures and learning about other people. So, what would I ask our community? It depends on where they're from. Lately, I've been asking our community how to say things in Russian.
Yeah, I would say roll up your sleeves, jump in. There's a lot of work to do. We need a lot of help.
Yeah, that's one thing I would ask our community is, do you know someone who shares our passion? Do you know someone that believes that immigration is not a four-letter word, who wants to help good people find their place? You know, we need volunteers. Everything from help us to organize files, to give us some ideas for marketing, to help us any talent you have, whether it's electronic or in person, we can use some hands. So all of us ended up on this stream today by simply reaching out. And so I know firsthand by reaching out blindly to Konstantin and Manus that if anyone sees this stream and does reach out, you will get a response. So if you have something to contribute, we'd like to hear from you. How's that
And
for a
even
pitch?
if you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of times people don't realize what they have that they can contribute. That's
Yeah.
been my experience. So
I like your old line, Manus, about the grandma.
yeah.
Well, what would your grandma say about you if you say you
Yes.
don't have anything to contribute?
Yeah. Yeah. We have that situation come up every time we're dealing with a potential client, and we'll ask them, you know, what are your abilities? They all tend to tell us that they're average. And I'll just say, would your grandmother say that you're average? Yeah. And
Well, and part of that's that Russian, the difference in America versus other places of who was it we were talking to? And he goes, oh, I did a little project here and there. I just designed the whole AC system for the whole airport in St. Petersburg.
yeah.
Yeah, that you should probably mention that on your resume. That
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There is that. Okay. What are some of the questions we had for you?
well, I'm reading through them to see if I can answer any more myself.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I had an interesting experience. I don't know where you all were. I know Constantine, you were in the States in the 90s. I was in Switzerland when the planes hit the building, 9/11. So that was kind of an interesting experience. I didn't come back to the United States for a year and a half after that happened. And just, yeah, I didn't want to fly right after that. I didn't want to fly that Christmas. Normally I would come home for Christmas, and it happened in September. And so it was a year and a half, and I saw huge changes when I came back. For example, where I lived in Chicago, one of my first jobs in Chicago was at the Federal Reserve. And shoot, you just walk into the Federal Reserve and walk up to reception, and you would go up to your offices and whatnot. I came back after 9/11, and you couldn't get within 50 yards of that building. There were barricades and bollards set up, and what I noticed then was, and the minute it happened, we knew that, boy, this is an inflection point. Things are going to change in the United States in terms of security. And it sure did. We saw that come in, then we saw the Patriot Act come into place, and then everything else. But I can say, of all the places to be when the planes were flying around that day, I felt pretty safe in Switzerland. I was kind of glad I was sitting in an hour away from Geneva that day.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a crazy experience.
We saw that, you mentioned that, but the practical changes that were made, simply the requirement that we get passports.
Yes.
We never had that. Now there's a requirement that the driver's license, which are issued by the states, and there's 50 of them. And I think there's a couple territories and whatever in there, whatever. So there's like 60 different government entities that issue driver's licenses. They now have to adopt what is known as the real ID, which is, I'm not really sure what it is, but you can't, I think they keep postponing it, but eventually you won't be able to get on an airplane or a train.
Oh, it's already. Yeah, it's already. You can't get on an airplane. Yeah.
Yeah. And, so, yeah, I don't know if it was.
No, a real ID, what they do is they make you bring in 2 pieces of backup validation to validate you are who you are and you live where you live.
Okay.
So in my case, I brought in a utility bill and something else. Oh, my passport.
Yeah.
So 2 forms of identification, and then they give you a different driving license that has a special hologram that depends on the state. But yeah, before 9/11, before that, I mean, it was fairly easy to go get an ID, and they were fairly easy to fake. So, see, in the States, we don't have any kind of a national federal ID card other than like a Social Security card. They've thought about it from time to time, and we do have a passport card available, but it's not like in other countries where you get a national ID card. So every state you go to, matter of fact, in the States, when you move, for example, from California to another state, you
May I
have
have
to
a
go.
question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Question?
Somehow my sound is delayed by a few seconds. What the national ID? I heard there was a lot of talk of obliging people to have national IDs in order to fly. So you couldn't fly without national ID. Is that it didn't happen, right?
It's not a national ID. It's enhanced security for every state ID. So that's something that's different in the States. So if you move from state to state, you have to change your driver's license. So every state issues its own ID. We don't have any kind of national ID card. And Americans aren't required to get a passport. Matter of fact, I don't know the percentage of people that don't have American passports, but it's pretty significant.
Currently, it's
Okay.
55% do not. So 45% do. But and 2001 at 9/11, it was 6% of the population of the United States had passports. So they went from 6 to 45.
So that should answer a question to anyone on the stream of why do Americans come off as ignorant sometimes of other countries? Is because only 45%, that's the high end, 45% of us even have a passport. America is so big that people can travel their whole lives in the United States and not leave.
Yeah. All right. We have another question here.
Yeah.
I like the second part. Here we go.
Yeah.
How does it depend on employment? Yes, the society is broken up between those who are employed and do not spend all their time looking at media, social media, and YouTube and news reports. And then you have the unemployed who do. The reality is that most Americans are not paying attention. Most Americans get up in the morning, they go to work, and today was Monday, so they would have turned on the news to see, well, they would have known how their football team did, they would have known how the team did, but now they want to find out how their competitors did. They don't necessarily look at what's the craziness that's going on in whatever, and that's why it seems to be even crazier, because they have to make more outrageous claims to get attention and whatnot. But I think it's one of those the arguments that they've had, and I think one of the things that we will see, because I know that a good portion of the American public that is depending on the affordable health care subsidies to pay their insurance premiums are not aware that they're going away in January.
Right.
But when January comes and they get those bills, that's when they'll be aware, and you'll hear something. But
well, and to your point, Manus, that's what I see. Absolutely. 8 out of 10 Americans today, if they saw the news this morning, they looked up the football team yesterday from the NFL football game. They might have looked and saw the government shutdown, and they probably looked at the weather report, and that's as far as they got. And then they got on social media and they saw all the memes, So in terms of legit news diet, Americans in general aren't going very deep into what's going on in the world. And well, that's why I find reports like Constantine so valuable at Inside Russia, is because it's a good source. We just don't get a lot of comprehensive coverage unless you go seek out independent sources.
And it's very difficult to find independent sources. Not that they don't exist, it's just difficult to find. And
because it's more profitable to be more extreme these days. Yep.
Well, yeah, because the audience is focused in on other things. The main audience is focusing on other things. So
yes, it's much more profitable to be extreme. Well, not to be extreme, but to appear extreme these days, and I know quite well there are a few YouTube channels that talk about Russian news and events happening in Russia. And at some of them I look and, I want to, check my eyes, because I'm thinking, well, this is the end of the war. Putin knows who he's lost and things like that. And I click and I find it's complete clickbait. And the reality is much more mellow than titles and thumbnails. And videos like that drive hundreds of thousands of views. People somehow like that extremality. They click on that, and Do they even care about content at all? I don't know. So you're so right. It's profitable to be extreme, but it's not about profits. You know, it's not all about money. It's about the truth. It's about common sense, logic, and things like that in the first place.
Well, and that's why we're here as Brain Drain as well. It's about, yeah. We're going to continue to yell and spread the message, but it's never going to be, we're never going to be extreme. We promise to give you the facts and be pragmatic and tell you the steps to take. We might try to make you laugh once in a while, because humor is pretty important, right?
Yes. All right. I think we got through an hour.
We're
Great
on an hour.
conversation.
Any other
Thank you,
questions or
friends.
comments?
Thank you for joining. You know, I've enjoyed listening to you, Manus, to Eric, to Manus, and Amara. It's been nice. You add depth with your presence to our company.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks to Tamara for putting together the notes and questions and for producing the show today. And please do join us again next week for another edition of Meet Your Neighbors, Meet Your New Neighbors, and follow our channel to watch for Manus's news updates that we publish several times a week as well. And don't forget to visit our website for all the ways you can support us. Thank you very much.
Subscribe.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this and maybe even learned something new. If you did, don't just vanish into the algorithm. Hit like, subscribe, and follow us on social. It's the easiest way to support our work and make sure you never miss what's next. Want to stay in the loop without relying on big tech's mood swings? Sign up for our monthly newsletter. And if you've got the means, donations of any size keep our programs running strong. As a 501c3, your gift is tax deductible where the law allows. Together, we can turn Brain Drain into America's next big breakthrough.